Panera.
All right. Hey, welcome everybody. It's Wednesday, 7 o'clock. Sci-Fi Distilled. Welcome, Mary Beth, and welcome back, Bruce.
Hello.
How are you?
Hi, Bruce.
Good day.
So
How goes
this
it?
week we are kind of doing a little out of our normal time zone. We're doing Logan's Run from 1977. 76? I thought it was 77. 76? No, you're right. It's 76. Anyway,
76,
close enough.
yeah.
So far along, doesn't really matter at this point. So yeah, 76, right. It came out actually before Star Wars, obviously, which just goes to show you there was science fiction prior to Star Wars. In the movies.
Yes.
In the movies, anyway. All right. So Mary Beth has news. So we'll go.
I have news. I don't have much news, but I am going to zip through the news tonight. First off, guys, join me in wishing our own Denise Okuda a very happy birthday. Happy birthday, Denise.
Happy
We hope
birthday,
you've had
Denise.
an awesome day today. No, I'm the only one wishing her happy birthday.
I did. I said happy birthday.
I sent her a message saying happy birthday.
And I did, yes. Send her a message.
All right, moving on. I don't usually do this, but I do have public service announcements tonight. The government has reopened, the American government has reopened the free home. If you want to get your 4 free home COVID tests, go ahead and do that on USPS.com. Shipping begins next week. This is the 5th round of free at-home tests that they have delivered by the post office. The new COVID booster is out, so go get yours and your flu shot. I'm going Friday for mine. And next Wednesday, so a week from today, October 4th, FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and the FCC are planning a nationwide test of the emergency alert system starting at about 2:20. It'll be both TV and radio and your phone. So all of our phones will start screaming at us all at the same time. Won't that be fun? Moving on. Strike news. Last week, I reported the unusual presence of the CEOs in the Writers Guild strike talks. Well, as of Monday, they have reached a tentative agreement after 148 days on strike. A tentative agreement has been reached that would provide writers with increases in wages and residuals, language addressing the union's demands for minimum staff in television writers' room, and I can explain what that is if you want to know. Payments based on the success of streaming shows and protections against the use of artificial intelligence. The Writers Guild West and the Writers Guild East have approved the deal, which was recommended unanimously by the Guild's negotiating committee, and now it will be presented to the union membership for ratification. The Writers Guild says the strike officially ends Wednesday, so that's today, with writers going back to work, and ratification is expected to take place in October.
Yeah,
now do the actors.
Now we got to do the actors, right? We're still
now do the actors.
Still in a bit of a hole. So
moving on. Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty has released the trailer for season 7 featuring the new sound-alike. I'll drop the link in the chat if you guys want to check it out for yourselves. They still have not told us who this person is, but I've seen the trailer, and yeah, it doesn't even miss a beat. It sounds like Rick and Morty. It's an identical sound-alike. I mean, there are little nuances, but it's good. The new season starts October 15th, 11 p.m. on Adult Swim. We finally have a full-length trailer for this year's Doctor Who's 60th anniversary special, and it comes with the confirmation that Neil Patrick Harris is indeed playing a character called the Celestial Toymaker, a character that has not been seen since 1966. Doctor Who celebrates his 60th in November, and it sounds like the showrunners have pulled out all the stops for this special 3-episode event with cameos, Easter eggs, and fan service surprises galore. What did I write? Here in the state. I don't know what I'm saying on this sentence, so I'll just go on. Here in the United States, the anniversary special will be on Disney Plus, and Sci-Fi Distilled will bring you all the dates and times when we get them. Nobody knows when it's actually going to be. And then finally tonight in Logan's Run news, they have been making noises about a reboot for this movie for years, on again and off again, and nothing has ever come of it. Well, back in April of this year, before the strike, the following report came out. Warner Brothers will spearhead a production along with Silver Pictures, Blind Wink, and Genre Films, other production companies. Pirates of the Caribbean director Gore Verbinski was attached to direct the upcoming film, and the screenwriters were the Peter Gregg and John Spates, who John Spates worked on Dune Part 1 and 2. They were going to just completely reboot the movie, but they were expecting. Okay, do you guys remember in Battlestar Galactica when they kind of gender swapped a couple roles, like Starbuck was suddenly a girl and Boomer was suddenly a girl? They were going to do that. The reboot is expected to begin filming early next year, or it was until the strike happened. What do you guys think? And we're going to talk about this during the show.
Well, we'll talk about that.
I say yes. It needs a reboot, and we'll get into the reasons when we talk about it during the show. What's going to happen now, guys, is Rizzo's going to put up a 3-minute timer.
And we're going to, which one are we doing first?
What do you want to do first? You want to do?
We'll do Lower Decks.
I don't care, whichever one you want to do.
We'll
do Lower Decks,
right.
yeah. We're going to a wedding, guys! Woo!
Oh, this one was about a wedding, and it was a Orion wedding. So Tendi was invited. Well, it was her sister's wedding, and then so we see a lot of backstory on Tendi in this episode, and that she's really more of a badass than we probably already knew. She's actually royalty, and she was supposed to be bred as an assassin, I guess, or something like that, until she decided she wanted to be a nerd in Starfleet. So there was that storyline, and then there was what was the other storyline with Boimler and the engineer there, Rutherford. They were Rutherford. They were in the holodeck. They were both they were first getting along really well, and they're sharing a room. But then they found that they had things that conflicted, and then they were both doing Mark Twain in the holodeck.
And it worked.
So, but the sideline, the funny part of that, they found out that that it worked for them, that they were able to get along as both playing the same part. So then the funny part of that was the captain is trying to do negotiations with this other race that wasn't working out. So these two idiots decide, we have the solution. So they get the alien in the Mark Twain outfit. And of course, it doesn't go well at all. It just falls apart. So there were two things. So I don't do all the talking. What is your opinion? I thought this was a pretty good episode overall.
I thought it was pretty good. It was definitely funny. There were a few funny moments, like when the alien ate the bonsai tree that the two guys had worked so hard on, and just seeing Tendi be like this badass, and then passing it over to her sister. That's pretty cool.
Well, the funny thing was with every time you think they're on the Orion planet and they're going to get attacked or something, and it turns out, oh no, it's just she's royalty, and they're just part of their whole culture is the
mistress. That's what I should have put. Instead of there's no sanctuary, I should have written mistress of the winter constellation. That's what she is. She's the tip of the dagger of the
it's like the whole thing. So it was a pretty good episode. I think it's pretty solid in the whole line of Lower Decks. Probably better than the last one. I still think the first two are the best this season.
Agree. They led strong.
One and the I forget what the other one was, but those first two that they aired were to me were the best.
Yeah, this is pretty funny. And what was really funny, I don't know if any of you guys watch Trek Culture on YouTube, is this guy, Sean Farrick. He's out of Ireland. He's Irish. He's got a brogue. And then to hear him doing the Mark Twain Southern drawl was like he nailed it. He just nailed it. It was so funny. And if you don't watch, you should be watching. It's quite good. Trek culture.
It is. Oh, yeah. So, all right. Well, that's pretty much wraps up Lower Decks.
While you're resetting the clock for Ahsoka, I'm going to say hi, Doc. Hi, Bill Sotek. Phil Merkel got his COVID test in. Hi, Alex. Martin is here. And Kelly Barber is here. Hi, Kelly. How's everybody doing tonight?
Well, thank you all for joining us. Are we ready? Because I'm ready.
That's right, Martin. What's her name? Marina got stabbed in the shoulder like 3 times.
Yeah, that was funny.
It's like the running gag of the show. All right, Ahsoka. Ooh, it's a good one.
All right, so Ahsoka. Yeah, we're down to one more episode after this one. So definitely things were happening. There was a lot of fighting, some sword play, which we like. Lots of stuff going on there, boy. So we got Thrawn is definitely so you were wrong. They didn't wait till the last episode. He's been kind of not as integral as I would like, but definitely they're after Ezra. They're after now Sabine, and then of course Ahsoka shows up finally. And then the poor space whales ran into the minefield.
Yeah, the poor space whales good.
Of course, they were like, "We're out of here." Did you catch that?
Like,
as soon as they spit her out, they're like, they just
we should briefly mention at the top of the show opened with Hera getting in trouble.
Right.
And who comes along to save her?
Well,
but none other.
C-3PO shows up in
Technically,
Princess Leia's or Senator Organa, as they put it. That I was really hoping that we were going to see at least a hologram of Senator Organa.
Me
I
too.
really
I wanted to hear her
see
say
that.
something.
He was just going to project kind of like, and that would have been a nice throwback to the original Star Wars. Help the Obi-Wan. You're all in hope.
Yeah.
It would have been a nice throwback. So Bruce he hasn't apparently watched it. So
but anyway, back to Ahsoka and the whales, and they get to the planet.
So yeah, so there was that, but so that she gets off the hook. Hera's off the hook.
Anyway.
And now Ahsoka has shown up in the other galaxy, and of course there's some fighting. There's a little bit of what we throw back to again Empire. We have to go through a debris field, aka asteroid field. Always got to do that. The Star Wars staple.
Debris field.
Yeah, it's the Star Wars staple. And so we found out some stuff going on here. It looks like they're going to get off. Well, they all are reunited at the end, of course.
Oh, and super fast. Tell the audience who is portraying the Night Sister Clotho and who is portraying Enoch, the head, whatever he is, the one stormtrooper with a face.
I don't know.
You don't know. I will tell you. Clotho, the head Night Sister, is being played by my most favorite actress ever, Claudia Black, and Enoch is being portrayed from Farscape and other shows, Stargate, and Enoch is being portrayed by The Expanse's Wes Chatham, who played Amos. So my bet, guys, is you don't hire actors of that caliber to just play these on the show and then they're done. We're going to see these characters for some time to come. They're going to have a role, and they're going to.
There's only one episode left, so it will probably end on a cliffhanger. And due to the strikes, we probably won't see a season of this for like 3 years.
Possible. Yeah, possible.
Anyway,
I think they'll be in the movies. Also, one of the other Night Sisters is played by Jane and Weena Seymour, who played the Borg Queen in Picard season 3. It was the Borg who was hung up, and she was being voiced by Alice Krieg.
Okay. All right, we're gonna get rid of that. We're gonna get rid of that. All right, you can unplug,
safe, Bruce.
What?
All right, Capricorn 6, last
Martin,
day.
At least
Capricorn
it wasn't
6,
Jar Jar. Yes, thank God it wasn't Jar Jar that showed up. Yeah, I had one. But,
how do you guys think about the new Ewoks?
It's disintegrated because I'm so far past 30.
Yours just turned black and fell off.
Yeah, it just fell off.
See, that's how much younger I am than you guys.
Yeah, just fell off. Turned black and fell off.
Martin talking about Jar Jar reminds me the naughty of those little turtle guys. I enjoy them more than I enjoy Ewoks.
Well, and again, that is very Star Wars to have.
And that is very Star Wars to have a little creature that squeaks and
that's cute and
makes emphatic noises while the action is going on.
Moopsie.
Yeah, Moopsie.
Moopsie. So Logan's Run. This movie, I did not see this in the theater. I was too young. So I do remember when it came out, though.
I was 5 when it came out, so no,
yeah, I
didn't
was
see it till
only
much
about
later.
9, I guess, when this came out. So I was too young to see it. I think it was rated R because of the brief nudity.
They were trying to make it rated PG.
Is it PG? Let me see.
It is PG, which is crazy because it's like, well, they cut a whole bunch of the orgy
kind of,
scene.
yeah.
And then they're like, you know what? Let's do that whole thing in slow-mo.
Because they go through that whole sexual thing.
The love shop.
They like run through
the love shop or whatever.
Yeah, in slow-mo. Like, why? What was happening that you suddenly started moving?
Right.
Well, you had the mist, right? And I think
it was like there's drugs are obviously a very big thing because remember when they went, he was partying with his partner there, Francis.
Oh yeah, that green mist came down.
Up and the big mist comes down and they're all getting stoned. It reminded me of like Sleeper with the big drug ball. Remember the ball that they passed around? So that's a movie we should do one day.
I've got to say that I've just rewatched this afternoon. I came home a little early and watched it, so it's fresh in my mind. Not that this is the first time I've seen it. I've seen it lots of times, but just recently. So I've got all the details fresh in my head.
Oh, good. Okay, so you remember the green mist. The green mist coming down.
Well, the basic storyline, for those that you don't know, is this is sort of obviously a post-apocalyptic Earth. We don't know specifically what happened, either a war or some kind of environmental disaster. They moved people into this dome city, and at some point things went wrong. I always got the impression that it was probably never designed to have people die at 30, that somehow over time that happened in the computer, like crazy computer time.
Well, the thing was that, and this is what confused me, was Box keeps talking about, the fish and everything came, then it stopped coming, then the runners started coming. So I never thought of it that way, but you're probably right. The food started reducing, therefore they had to create population control, therefore they came up with this idea.
But it was all, again, this is another society controlled by an AI.
Yeah.
And this is why I was saying earlier to Mary Beth, I said this story is ripe for Lower Decks to find on a planet the same kind of thing going on, and the crazy computer and people dying.
Landrew, anybody?
I mean, another crazy computer to put in the wall.
What's the one where they all had a report?
Well, the apple.
Yeah, was it the apple? No.
No, when they had to go to the big lizard head.
No, she's thinking. Oh,
you're thinking of Taste of Armageddon.
Taste of Armageddon. That's what it reminds me of.
That was kind of different. That was a war that was going on.
It was a war. It was an ongoing war. But it had been going on forever, and they just...
Yeah, a little similar. So basically, the population control, you can only live till 30, and then you go to Carousel, where you might get renewed, which nobody, of course, does. And then, of course, anybody who tries to buck the system becomes a runner. And that's what the Sandman's job was, to basically terminate you. And that was basically the story.
But they didn't even think of it as terminating. She had to say, you kill people. And he was like, what? I kill people? No, I don't kill people.
No, I terminate people.
I don't terminate them. Yeah. Terminate runners. Different.
It's different.
Yeah. Yeah. So the movie actually starts out with them showing that they don't give normal childbirth, that these are like grown.
Yeah, they never. I need to know. So this is why I had the question in the news segment. Does this thing need a reboot? And I say yes, because I feel like some of these details need to be fleshed out. Yeah. I want a little more information.
Yeah, what'll happen. And I like this movie the way it is. And I know a lot of people, yes, it's dated and stuff like that to some degree. Certainly the effects are dated, but the effects are not critical to the story. So I let that go. No.
Well,
but certainly the model of that city's been used in other
oh God, yes.
A lot of stuff.
Tons of times. Yeah.
So it's almost like the little 3 tubes, those that in Star Trek, you see them in every Star Trek, the 3 tube thing.
Oh yeah, that's a name. I can't think of the name.
Well, to me, in 76, 77, everything afterwards had the story of Star Wars and the aesthetic of Logan's Run.
Yeah, the clean future.
The clean
future, shiny future.
The drapes,
I mean, it's a good point. That's a good point, Bruce, because if you look at the Buck Rogers reboot, or the Buck Rogers, the Gil Gerard Buck Rogers, it had a very similar look.
Yep.
Clean and shiny.
To Clean and Shiny. The city was kind of, in fact, I want to say, did they use? No, they didn't use the city.
Wait, I can tell you what it was used in. The miniature.
They used in a bunch of stuff.
I wrote it down.
That model of the city, and it looks like a model. I mean, it's a great
It
model.
was used in Ice Pirates, Mark and Mindy, and in a next gen. A background was used in a next gen episode called Tapestry as the outside of the window.
There you go. So anyway, so the story is basically, that's it. And of course, the computer realizes that there's people missing from their population, and it's been keeping it secret, and they haven't been terminated, and they didn't renew, of course. So they finally get Logan or conscript Logan to find Sanctuary, which is where allegedly they're all going. So here's my thing. So he hooks up with Jessica. What was her? Jessica 6 or something like that. They always had numbers.
Yeah.
Who is Jenny Agutter. And so he figures out that she's probably part of the runner. The funny thing is the computer knows that the Ankh sign is a symbol of sanctuary, and she's wearing it around her neck like
freely walking through the city wearing this thing, and it was big too on her neck. It wasn't like a little one. No.
Yeah, it was a pretty good sized one. So that I always thought was kind of silly. And she wasn't even near that age. She was still a green. I don't know what the breakdown was in ages.
Yeah, I do know. And they changed it from the book to the movie. Yes. And thank God they did, because it was 3 colors. It was yellow, green, and red. And yellow was 0 to 7. And then green was 7 to 14. Or maybe I'm missing one.
No,
maybe it was 0 to 12.
Yeah.
It was something obnoxiously young, 12.
Yeah.
And then you were in the next crowd up, and I was like, wait a minute. They were having sex with, you were in a green. I'm like, they were having sex with greens. So it's okay if there's a 12-year-old green, you have sex. How does that work? I need those informations.
Different society, different.
And then they didn't want their entire cast all being under 21, so they changed which is fine. I'm glad they did. They changed it to I
mean, the book was considerably different.
It was. Didn't they go to Mars at the end of the book?
Yes. Yeah, Sanctuary was actually a place, which really sort of changed the whole theme of the movie. And that's my big problem with Logan's Run. It's what does it all mean?
What does it all mean? And if there's runners leaving the city, why would the computer care? That's less mouths to feed that they're clearly having.
Well, because I think it's because the computer's a megalomaniac and wants to control everything. That's why. I think the computer is insane. That's why at the very end.
Thank you, Ken.
At the very end,
7, 14, 21. The movie was 10, 20, 30. Not quite, but yeah.
So at the very end, when it couldn't deal with his answers saying there is no sanctuary, blah blah blah, it started to have Norman coordinate.
Yeah, why did it blow up? Because it had that
Star Trek. It was starting to freak out because it couldn't put it assumed there had to be sanctuary, and when he's saying no, there isn't any, they're all dead.
I think
I don't know that they were all dead.
Well, no, the assumption is that the only 2 that got out were Peter Ustinov's parents.
We don't know that they got out. They could have been already out there.
That's true. We assume that they didn't, but I mean, they were Box pretty much got everybody.
No. Box. We only saw 10 people that Box got. We don't know that Box got 1,000.
I think they implied that they all Box got them all.
I don't think so.
Got them all.
Box got 1,000 people. How did I miss that? I've seen this movie dozens of times, and I never got that.
From the sea.
And Logan had one thing that no one else did.
A gun.
He was the first Sandman to run.
So he took out the birds. My birds.
But they weren't eating meat because there was something, and she
remember all Box's job was to freeze
food,
the protein from the sea, the fish.
Yeah, I got Box's job. I
protein from the sea. That's all his job was, and he just like he said,
I don't think they knew
food stopped coming, and they started. So I just kept freezing them, basically.
Yes, I got
And he
that.
was, of course, clearly a little insane because he kind of even said he's like, I'm not man and I'm not machine and I'm more than a fusion of the two.
Yeah.
So he was like some kind of weird hybrid thing that they never really fleshed out either. No pun intended.
I don't know that Box got 1,056 people. I really don't
Well,
know that.
you can disagree, but that's the implication is that he got them all. What do you guys think? You got them all or what?
Martin says Martin thinks Box got everyone.
Gotta
Well,
catch them
not
all.
everybody. That was the
Ellie's
implication
gotta
I
watch
got
it
right
again.
from the get-go. I never had any other doubt. Because once they got out, there was nobody else out there except Peter Ustinov. Where do they all go? If there's
See,
a
we don't know.
thousand
We
people out
found
there,
Peter wandering around what was DC, but I
what
I
was
always
left of
figured that
Washington,
we
DC.
kept poking around, we would find other,
No,
well, we never really got that far because they decided they had to go back.
that was the TV series.
Yes, that was the TV series.
Yes, there was a TV
in the TV series. There was a lot of people living out, and we probably would assume that there's somebody somewhere in the world living outside of the city. That's not the only thing that survived.
And that's where I thought Peter Ustinov came.
Maybe I always assumed that his parents had escaped just like they did.
Yeah,
and that's how.
See, I always figured there were multiple ways out because they burst out. They broke a wall to get out. They collapsed Box's area to get out. And so I figured other people, and they said to go down, and at some point they went up. But anyway, the point was, I thought that there was multiple ways out, and I thought some of those thousands got out other ways.
Maybe, but that was not the implication in the movie.
Yeah, the implication was that they were the first ones out, and here's the world, and there were other people out there because not everybody went into the city, but
once you get out, there's a million directions you could have gone. You didn't necessarily have to go to DC, or what was DC.
No, but you had to go through Box.
See, I don't know that you had to go through Box to get out.
You realize that, right? I mean, you're trying to put logic to something that's
this
movie had to flow them along. So, it's
this movie didn't have a lot of logic.
If you want to go into the logic side of it, how did all these people who had never seen outside in the sun and stuff know how to survive?
Well, that's just it. At the end of the movie,
they wouldn't.
When the city collapses and all these people start wandering out to the water garden at Fort Worth, which is where Peter Ustinov was,
where they shoot it.
That's where they shot that thing. What were they going to do? They weren't going to go back and. I mean, maybe some of the systems were still working, but they don't know agriculture. They don't know animal butchery, and we don't know what animals there were to eat. They were screwed.
Well, they were going to all go back to the Library of Congress and learn about
books.
it. Read all the
books.
books.
But did they know how to read? And here's the thing about the society.
I think there was still education because you had some stuff going on there.
There must have been some level of education, I would think, because you had the doctor. There was a doctor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there were the cleaners.
Now, wait a minute. Can we just stop and talk about the doctor for 2 seconds? When I was watching this, the first just today, and I was watching when he comes on and he's in his little silver suit. Because at the new you, whatever they called it, I'm thinking, my God, he's a Lost in Space guy, like Lost in Space, evil guy. Like that's exactly what he looked like to me. Like he's somebody like he just walked off the set of Lost in Space. I don't know why I thought that, but the silver
Phil, where are you, Phil? Can you confirm?
He's the only one not wearing a color and everything. And,
well, he's in his little doctor suit.
Yeah,
he's in silver. Yeah, that's right. Oh, he goes. Oh, I thought you'd be I thought you'd be a red. He's like, I am.
Yeah, he had a new face.
Made myself a camp.
So not everybody's wearing pajamas. So here's the other thing that I didn't get. What the hell was the deal with Cathedral? Why were these little feral kids?
Yeah, no. Why?
Is that what they do? They just dump everybody in Cathedral until they're 14, and then they have to go back to the regular society.
Yep.
They never explain why those kids were there.
Did they just? Are they the ones that just refuse to incorporate into society? Because some people will never conform.
They're all children. How could you even? Some of them were very small.
The oldest ones were 15, 16.
No, 14. I mean, remember, you said when you hit 14, you're out of there.
Yeah, you saw yellows in society, so yeah, these are the ones who just wouldn't conform. Instead of having a stern school teacher, I think you just chucked them out there.
I was just waiting for the one kid to start going bonk bonk on the head, bonk bonk.
You're right. Yeah, it was very much that. It was very much. It was very. It was very lost. Not Lost Boys.
It was Mary.
It was Miri, but it was what was that other one where they're on the island there? Lord of the Flies. It was very Lord of the Flies.
Very Lord of the Flies. Yeah.
Also, they were not color coded because they were just wearing whatever they could.
No, they were color coded. They were yellows.
No, they were wearing whatever they could scrounge. If you look,
No, if you look,
there's
the
other
predominant color was yellow.
by all what they could get.
But the interesting thing again, and this is one of the things I think that the society wasn't like this from the get-go, is we have a place called cathedral, which implies religion, and that's the part that's now blocked off.
And that's blocked off, and now we have orgies every day.
Area
Yeah.
That again, the computer has said no, you can't go to cathedral, so religion is not an approved activity that it wants to cultivate, because again, it brings in other things against its theory that you live to 30 and then you either renew or you don't. But so that's another little tidbit that I kind of picked up, saying that that's why this place was here before the computer lost its mind or decided it needed to save. I'm sure it had some initial programming to do whatever it had to do to keep the population alive, and this was its crazy solution.
But that's what I liked about movies of this era in particular, was that there wasn't over explanation of things. You know, you didn't get through there and, you know, have some guy saying, well, you know, what was cathedral originally used for? I don't know. It's something mysterious, and it got outlawed.
Didn't need a lot of explanation because the basic storyline you got. I mean, it didn't need the backstory the hell out of it.
Admittedly, I don't like being spoon-fed, but after seeing it enough times, you start asking questions. Like when you find yourself questioning the movie, like you want to be able to comfortably suspend disbelief and just comfortably accept whatever it is they're feeding you. But in this thing, you watch it enough times and finally you're like, wait a minute.
A bunch of kids live at the mall. They're happy.
And it is. It looks exactly like a mall. I'm pretty sure they shot most of this at a mall.
It was shot at a mall.
They did.
A bunch of kids, I'm talking all the 20-year-olds. Like,
I mean, clearly it is.
Which, you know what? Honestly, when I see I am like all the kids. I'm turning into an old lady. Oh, God. Rizzo and I were talking about that before the show starts because we're early eaters. We eat.
We're early eaters. That doesn't sound right at all.
We don't eat at 8 o'clock at night. We eat 5 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock.
We were wondering, you guys all like bail out because you got to go eat?
Yeah, all our guests are like, we got to go because we got to eat dinner. And then I'm like, oh my God, am I turning into one of those old ladies?
I know, no, we always, no, my family always ate at least like between 5:30 and 6.
Oh, we tend to eat around 7.
I would have been dead
you know.
I never would have.
Nobody's holding the gun to your head, Bruce, to be on the show. You want to go eat, you go.
You can bring the food and eat on the air. We don't care.
Right? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. So, so anyway, we haven't talked cast on this yet.
Let's hit the cast
a little bit though. So we'll talk cast real quick. Michael York, we did mention, of course, great actor. Has been in tons of stuff. Of course, we probably know him best right now as Basil Exposition from the Austin Powers movies. That's my mother. Austin, you're drinking shit. Yes, it's really quite awful.
And he's the one who'd always call, and they'd have to do the gag where they were covering themselves up with
right.
They were like naked talking.
And he always had it was always the ring from in Man Like Anyway, so we know Michael York. Of course, again, he's around this time he was quite popular. He did a lot of stuff. He was, as Bruce put it, a hot commodity. I remember from The Island and Dr. Moreau, he did a version of that.
He was on B5.
Yep, he's pretty solid, pretty solid working career. I mean, he's been in a lot of stuff. I like him as an actor. I think he's good, and he's good in this too. Of course, then as we said, we had Jenny Agutter.
Why?
I still hold the candle for Jenny
Agutter.
Agutter.
You guys don't even see Farrah. Farrah looks
Farrah's there. I mean,
in this thing.
She does. Well, Farrah always looks smoking. I mean, that's what Farrah does.
Yeah, but
I don't know if I had to, honestly.
But you guys are all Jenny Agutter.
If I had to pick, I think I'd go Jenny.
Really? That's like picking Marianne over Ginger.
Yeah, well, I do that too.
All right,
everybody
Jenny. Let's talk about Jenny.
Everybody always picks Marianne over Ginger.
Well,
anyway, so she's of course Jessica Six. She's she was most recently, I think, in one of the Avenger movies. She plays like the
Winter Soldier. The Winter Soldier.
Yeah. So but she did a bunch of stuff. Of course, she was in American Werewolf in London.
Mm-hmm.
So
everyone's picking Jenny. Phil picks Jenny.
Yeah.
Bill.
They all picking Jenny.
They're all picking Jenny.
Woo!
Because they have taste. So she's done a bunch of stuff, and then of course Richard Jordan, who's one of my favorite actors. Of course, he's done so many great things. Of course,
Yes.
one of my favorite roles he did was Hunt for Red October, where he plays. I think he's like Secretary of State.
Yes,
I think he is.
You lost another ship.
You lost another submarine. No, I'm a politician, which means when I'm not kissing babies, I'm stealing their lollipops.
Yeah, that character.
So yeah, he's really good, and he's really good in this. And if they do a reboot, and you're saying they're going to gender swap some of these roles, I would keep Logan as a male, but I think it might be interesting to make him female. Wouldn't that be an interesting twist? Wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
And she hunts him down.
Yeah, and she hunts him down.
I think that would be cool if it was done right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Because
it didn't bother me.
you feel you have to do
bother
it.
me
I
at
never
all.
feel. I'm like, but I know I get. They like to swap things around.
I heard rumor that they were going to gender swap Logan.
Of course, that's the obvious choice, and that's what they'll do.
Look, they had Starbuck and Apollo, and they gender swapped one of them. So it's either Logan or Francis.
But the only thing I didn't,
I think if you're going to do it, I'd do Francis, but that's just me.
I would do Francis too.
I didn't believe. I know he's a good actor and stuff, but I just didn't believe his motivation. To me, it would have been
anything.
Who?
Francis? Yeah, I mean,
not Francis.
I never bought him. This is my friend. I'm trying to save him and stuff. He just went right over.
Because he was a zealot. He believed in the whole system without question.
Without question.
And also, he didn't have his life clock. He didn't lose 4 years.
No one took 4 years off his life clock, so he didn't
4 years off his life clock either.
They were openly like Logan openly said, well, that was when it was them, but now it's me and it's my life. Now I care. It really is very much like people we see nowadays. They don't care until it happens to them.
You got to be careful about when he said that, because up until the point that they get out of the first room with all the people helping the runners, he was working against them. He set off the alarm saying, "This is it."
I mentioned that he was playing her up to that point. Clearly.
Yeah, we were talking about that before the show.
But here's the thing. I think the computer picked Logan because he already showed tendencies to question. He was sitting there. He was looking at the babies. Yeah. He was curious about the babies. He had some questionable things before the computer basically said, "You need to go find sanctuary." So I think the computer already knew that he was susceptible to doing that mission and maybe actually running.
Yeah, so maybe when the computer saw the Ankh, that he'd gotten the Ankh off that guy, he was like, okay. Or it was like, okay. It's it's interesting that Francis got beaten to death with an American flag again. I mean, is there symbolism in there? Possibly.
Well, I find it interesting that, for an American film, and what I would consider a fairly American film since they end up in Washington, the three of the main actors are British, which seems strange.
And no effort to hide the accent. Well, I guess it's the future. All the accents are blended into one giant
in one city.
In one city, yeah. Although Jenny didn't have a lot of accent. Francis didn't really have a lot of accent.
Francis didn't have one.
Well, Francis didn't, but Michael York, Jenny, and Ustinov. I mean,
Ustinov. Yeah, Ustinov was. Let's keep going through the cast. I want to talk about Ustinov and Dennis Chevalier. I do want to talk about that. I have some hologram information.
So Roscoe Lee Brown. Now you guys know him. Of course, his voice work is everywhere.
His voice, yes.
He did the voice of Box. But if
you
look up,
he was Box.
Yeah, he was Box. But I mean, you really couldn't tell who was in there. But
no, you couldn't tell. But he was on a something. He had a pedal to make himself roll, and he was top heavy, so he'd go.
Yeah, he'd fall,
and the crew would have to rush out and rescue him.
So, but his voice is epic. I mean, he's got that. He's just got such a great voice. And you can look up his IMDb. He's been around forever. He's in tons of stuff. So, and of course, we mentioned Farrah Fawcett, who again was a big commodity at that time. I don't know if this is
Yes, this was right before Charlie's Angels.
Before Charlie's Angels.
This was like immediately before it, and she was only cast because Michael York saw her playing tennis and thought she was cute.
She was never, let's face it, she was never like a Shakespearean actress.
No.
I mean,
But this is one of her only 2 credits, I believe, as Fawcett Majors.
Yes, that's right. She is credited as Farrah Fawcett Majors. Yep.
Yeah.
So died too young, obviously.
Yes.
But who didn't have that? Well, I shouldn't say who didn't. What male didn't have that poster?
All right, in the red
Back in
bathing
the
suit,
70s.
smiling.
They all had it. Yeah, in the pink bikini. Yeah. Come on. Everybody had that
feathered
one.
hair.
I had that
it
one.
must be the hair, Cotton.
Yeah, all the
it's
major
feathered
ones.
and beautiful.
Yeah, feathered and beautiful. Lots of hair. It was before the big hair. So, and then of course, the guy that played Doc, Michael Anderson Jr. I don't know of him being anything.
That's the director's son. Michael Anderson Sr. directed it.
There you go. And Peter Ustinov, of course, you guys know. I don't have to go into, he's and like Mary Beth was saying, when he was doing, he ad-libbed most of those lines.
He improvised his lines.
He improvised quite a bit of it.
And it was brilliant. I loved it. My rant, I'll just share my little rant that I shared with you guys before the show started. He's quoting T.S. Eliot, kids. I saw so many reviews because I was watching on YouTube other people reviewing this thing, and no one seemed to realize. They're like, he kept going on about his cats and the naming of cats and the cats. I'm like, yes, he's quoting T.S. Eliot because he's been alone and just sitting there reading stuff for a long time, and that's all he's had. Like, it was kind of like, I love the way he was played, and I love the way he was portrayed. He is easily the best character in this movie because he has more knowledge than them, but he still doesn't have knowledge of how things work. You know what I mean?
All I know is that watching the movie this afternoon, my cat was nicely curled up with me until Peter Ustinov started coming on and all these cat noises in the background, and then she was off.
And she's like, I'm out.
I think I did get a few ears perked up from my dogs when that was playing it. So, but yeah, so this is
watch out for Mr. Mistopheles. Yeah,
lots of cats. So, but yeah, so Peter Welch is that pretty much rounds out the known actors.
Too significant.
There's nobody else.
There was a number of stunt actors that they used as speaking roles. Most of the runners and stuff like that were mainly stunt people. Yeah.
I usually do all roads, not a lot of roads. If you want to talk about Logan's Run, the series, some of those episodes were penned by David Gerald. And I think DC Fontana may have worked a little bit on Logan's Run, the series too.
She was like story editor or something for it.
Oh, was she story editor over there?
Yeah.
Oh, look.
I actually worked with one of the sound guys that worked on this movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for years I worked with him down in Tampa. They don't get any credit. They didn't back then. They didn't do the super detailed credits where they named like every single person. That was probably a union change at some point that required it. But so I remember him telling me he worked on a bunch of movies back then. This being one of them. So just a little factoid. He's no longer with us because he was a heavy smoker and that got to him. The cancer got him.
Well, I mean, Jerry Goldsmith did do the
yes.
Jerry Goldsmith did like half the movies of this era.
Yeah, he did. He did a lot of the movies. He did most of the sci-fi of the 70s.
Bill could probably tell you how many movies.
Then this Williams guy came on the scene, and
and that was the end of that.
Little Johnny Williams. Little Johnny Williams was on the scene back in the 60s when he was doing Lost in Space.
That's true. He was. People either love or hate the score.
They literally used to call him Little Johnny Williams when he was a young man. Yeah, he was.
The score was interesting. The score was interesting in that it was all very synthesized, very
parts of it, yes,
monotone while they were in the city, and as soon as they came outside. And where I really like the score is when they walk outside and you get this first time the full orchestra and the sun. That was a great scene.
Agreed.
Now, here's the problem. I loved it. Here's the problem with that scene. Well, I guess it's not. My guess is that if they were heading towards Washington, D.C., they had to be west of Washington, D.C. right? And they were looking east. So it had to be sunset, right? No, it would have been sunrise. So it made sense. No, I take it back. I guess it does make sense. It depends on what direction they were really going. But my guess is they were traveling east. That it was inland because it looked like they were at one point crossing. Like how did they get across the Potomac?
Yeah, well, there was a shot there that I thought was across, in Virginia there coming
right
up.
from the river. You could see the river.
There was a shot of a river.
And I'm like, that was my thing is like, okay, maybe the bridge is still there.
But then
everything else is falling apart.
And they're at the water garden of Fort Worth. I keep talking about this water garden. It's the steps with the water running down it. That they put in a painting in the background to show the ocean. So the city was at or on the ocean.
Well, it had to be. You're right, because they're walking along the beach.
And they were saying about the seawater powering it.
Yeah, the seawater.
Right.
And the fish.
So it had to be. So maybe they were going. Maybe they're going north-south. That's potentially.
Yeah, and maybe it was north-south. But when they came out and saw the sun setting, that was clearly west.
It was a sunset, but then they were out during. Yeah, I don't know.
So you go out, you see the sunset to the west, then you turn right and head north. I don't know. I don't want to think about it that hard.
It's a niggle. It's not important to the story. So, but you're right. I forgot. It had to be. It had to be along the ocean somewhere because they were walking your way. You're always waiting for them to see the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah, you
threw it up.
You ruined it.
Damn you! All the hell. Martin's asking, wasn't there an extra showing a Vulcan hand gesture?
Yes, there was.
At the end, maybe. Yeah.
Yes, there was. His mother was the casting person, and so he got put in as an extra. And yes, it's at the very, very end when they all gather around Peter Ustinov to see him. You very clearly see because it happens this way, and it happens kind of over Ustinov's face for a moment. And yes, there absolutely is an extra doing the Vulcan hair. And he said I did it for a gag. I didn't think it was going to make it in the movie. Actually, he said he did it because he wanted to find himself in the crowd.
It's kind of like when Denise Okuda, because she's in that scene in the motion picture Star Trek. Yeah. She's in that scene when he's addressing the whole crew. I look for her
all the time. I can never find her.
Yeah, I try to find her all the time. I've seen
in the movie. I can't because it goes too fast.
Yeah, the movie is too hard. Yeah, it's too hard to find her.
Yeah.
Phil's asking, is Logan's Run the last big budget dystopian science fiction film?
It's actually interesting where it comes.
I mean, what are you considering big budget? I mean, there's a lot of in the country.
And what are you considering dystopian? Is it dystopic or utopic? They had a pretty good life before they blew the city.
That's true. It's kind of a combination of the two, isn't it?
I mean, it was dystopic on the outside, but
yeah.
Because I was actually going back and I was trying to place it sort of in the history and where it was. And the 70s, early 70s was awful in terms of science fiction films. There really isn't ones that sort of you sit there and going, wow, that came out then and this. Logan's Run was sort of the first of the big budget movies. And then, of course, you hit 77, 78, 79. And it's like,
Star Wars, Alien.
Mad Max, Alien, Star Wars, all of that stuff came out afterwards. So it was a real risk for MGM to go down this road, especially.
It wasn't. They almost didn't do it.
I mean, if you want to talk, I mean, you go all the way back to Forbidden Planet. That was a big budget film in 1955.
Yes,
that was science fiction, of course, and that was not. A lot of people look at that film today that are not sci-fi buffs and go, "Oh my God, it's a cheap 50s movie." But that wasn't. That was a big movie. That was expensive. Disney did the effects for that, So.
But in terms of blockbusters from sci-fi, you sort of reach Planet of the Apes in that franchise, and there's not a whole heck of a lot after it. I mean, there's Omega Man and the Charlton Heston stuff.
Silent Running did it on $1 million. What did $1 million? That was the whole thing. What was? You're usually find the numbers. What were the numbers on this thing?
I will tell you, I have them. It was a success. It was 12 million, I believe, where did I read it? Here it is. It was a $12 million budget. It made 25 million. So it about doubled its money, and it was considered successful at the time.
Well, the thing was, a lot of people say, because of Star Wars, they brought the TV series out. No, they had the TV series in the can because it had been a success, and they pushed that out based on that film alone. Of course, then Star Wars came out.
Oh, that's totally because they did the same thing with Planet of the Apes. They had a Planet of the Apes TV show.
Oh, they milked Planet of the Apes.
Well, Planet of the Apes certainly had the multiple film prequels after it, but they also had the TV show.
TV shows and comic books and God knows what.
So they were definitely they were already on the milk wagon for Star Wars.
You probably actually went the other way with Star Wars because they had looked at I think there's like 4 or 5 book sequels that were never filmed.
Right.
Just because I think Star Wars just blew the whole thing open and they realized, we can't compete. It wasn't
Yeah,
that.
that may be true.
No, yeah,
Which would be interesting to
wouldn't,
see
and people
Bruce.
weren't looking. People weren't looking for that type of film anymore. They wanted space.
They
opera.
wanted Star Wars. Yeah. But
So-
so it'll be, if this reboot that I reported in the news, if it comes to pass, will it be more like the books or will it be more like the movie?
I guarantee you, it'll be a hell of a lot darker than the original.
Oh,
yeah.
no kidding.
It'll be darker and more graphic.
Yep, sure, of course. And if they're smart, they'll make it like the books, because then that way they have somewhere to go for a sequel. Because there are 4 books out. There's a bunch of books out.
I thought it was 4 or 5.
I don't even know. I don't even know if they're all still in publication anymore.
I don't know.
Quite frankly,
the first one was written by 2 guys, and then all the subsequent ones was just written by one of those 2 guys. And I apologize, I don't have their names off the top. Let me look. I might have written it down.
The one thing I remember about the book was that the chapter numbers were reversed.
Oh.
So you ended at 1 because it was a countdown to the launch of the rocket taking them to Sanctuary.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I may have to read the book.
it was a decent book. I mean, it was very different because they didn't have Carousel. They actually were put to sleep in a sleep shop. Hence, why you had sand.
Oh yeah, that's right. They died by gassing. Yeah.
Yeah, very pleasurable gas and stuff, but that's how they went out.
Interesting. Yeah, the whole Carousel thing was kind of interesting. That the way they sort of float around and then I don't know, they explode randomly for some reason.
I never got that what they were supposed to do.
I think this was to touch the crystal, and they were trying to climb higher. That's why they're all moving like that. They were trying to make themselves go higher to touch that thing.
I don't know. You'd think people would be like, "I never seen anybody renew."
Yeah, I've never seen anyone touch that thing.
Well, and they do say that, you know.
Hey,
have
Chris.
you ever known anybody to renew? Yes. Anybody that you know. And then he sort of leaves
Yeah,
it down.
again, that kind of goes back to Logan kind of questioning already the ahead of time, you know, and before he even goes and talks to the computer that, hey, so the computer obviously is keeping track, which is kind of a thing that, you know, if they have these crystals on their hands, you'd think that would also kind of track. They clearly can track where they are and when they are allegedly
why was
decide
it a
to run.
GPS? Yeah,
You think
It
that
was.
it should know exactly where they are all the time and what
so I
they're
should
doing.
have known that it was down in Box's office.
Yeah. But it,
You know,
well, I mean,
we assume
the
that
fence would
Box
go
is
so
clearly
far.
that was outside its range of a
But as soon as
whatever
they had a
control.
runner, how'd they know it was a runner? It was
That's
a
what
crystal.
I'm saying. Like, how do they know? How does it know it's running? The only way it was is if they were supposed
if
to
it
report
didn't,
to
if
Carousel.
you are, didn't report
Yeah,
to
if you didn't
Carousel.
report to Carousel, I suppose that's one of the.
But they had, you know, pinpoint accuracy on where these runners were. And then they had the little scanner devices where it could pick them up. So the crystal must have been transmitting.
Of course, yeah, that would be my thing. So, anyway, I do like this movie. It's kind of got that.
I like it too.
It's like a classic science fiction story.
Yeah, I like it too. It's thought provoking.
I just hope that if they do a reboot, that they really go more into motivation, because I just look at it and go, people don't act that way. I am sorry. You know, if you're trying to clamor up for the crystal, I'd be pulling other people down. You know,
Yeah.
you know, if you wouldn't take such glee in you know, going after a runner. I mean, how did they actually think of runners? Because at the beginning it was like a sport for them.
Yeah, like we said at the top of the show, they didn't think they were dying. They didn't think they're killing these people.
The scene when they shoot the one runner when he's kind of, and they're literally, like you said, they're literally shooting around him.
Yeah,
they weren't stormtroopers. They were purposely missing him.
They were cat and mousing him
to toy with him. And then they had this like evil laugh. Remember that there was like this one scene where they each laugh kind of evilly, like ha ha ha. Like it was just like, okay, that was a little awkward.
See, I'd rather, Mary Beth, go with what you were saying, is that they're zealots. They really believe in this. They're normal in any other way, but this is their religion. This is what they believe in, and play it off that way. But that first scene with the runner, and then Francis later on, he's just plain nuts.
Yeah, Francis.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. He's a zealot. It's like,
but I'd like to see it though, as you know, this is my best friend, and he's not going to be renewed, and I'm trying to save him somehow by stopping him, and you just don't.
He
get
did
that.
kind of initially. He's like, forget
The
that.
thing is,
Just
Francis
get in the
never
tub.
changes.
He was trying
Francis
to derail him.
What kills me is Francis makes it all the way to the Library of Congress or Congress, wherever the hell they were, sees that there's this whole other, and still.
But if, like I said, if he was really, you see him as a normal person, except he's indoctrinated into this religion, I think it would have been much easier, more interesting.
I think we see that already today with politics.
We absolutely see that today.
Yeah,
people are so focused on whatever their belief is politically.
Yeah.
No matter how much evidence,
no matter how much evidence you put in their face to the contrary, they just don't believe it.
They don't believe it. It's just like flat earthers or people that believe we never went to the moon.
And you had the opportunity at the end of the film to show the same thing when the city's falling down. Sort of everybody runs and emerges. I'm betting there's people who would have just stayed.
Yeah, around the crumbled city. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just staying here. I'm doing the whole Pompeii thing and staying put and stuff like that, rather than everybody race outside and there's this great enlightenment because they see an old guy.
There's never a great enlightenment for all the people, no matter what TV and movies tell us. A couple people get it, a couple people don't, and everybody else is kind of slow to either catch on or not.
I would agree that, it was a 2-hour film, and I know they had to wrap things up, but it would have been nicer to see some little taste, even if it was during the credits, of how they were going to live after that. Like what happened to these people afterwards, I don't know.
Yeah.
It just would have been something, like the computer started putting out information on how to live, how to fish.
They started with a explanation blurb, if you will. It wasn't a scroll, but there was a blurb there, and they could have ended with a blurb. It would have been a nice circle.
There were deleted scenes. A couple of them are on YouTube, but some of them are lost forever. But none of them dealt with what happened after. If the population knew how to read, then they all just go to Washington and start reading. And that would, like, literally they'll have to read how to agriculture, how to hunt, how to fish. You know what I mean? Like they'll literally how to build a rudimentary structure.
How to deal with the cold.
How to deal with the cold, yeah.
They had no concept of, oh my God,
They didn't know what the sun was, which kind of blows my mind. Like, surely they had day and night. They had light times and dark times within the domed city.
Yeah, but that was just day or night. They didn't necessarily know.
They didn't know it's because there's a sun.
Again, the computer was I'm sure the computer was restricting what knowledge they had of.
It's like the silo.
They had no idea if there was anything outside.
Yeah, they all have restricted knowledge, not by computers, but yeah.
Yeah, no, the computer was restricting it though. To what I'm sure the computer knew. So anyway, well, overall, good film. It's kind of a staple. It's one of those, if you're going through the things you should watch.
Chris wants to know what happened to the children in the nursery. They probably died when the city collapsed.
They
you think anyone thought to run into the nursery and get them?
Yeah, I don't think anybody gave a crap.
No, they didn't have those instincts.
No, them babies is dead.
Can you imagine the first time that they reproduce naturally?
Yeah, they have no idea what's going on unless they know how to read. Again, that's their only salvation is I hope to hell this population knows how to read, which they must know how to read because they read the computer screens, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking they know how to read. It's just, and they probably have some knowledge.
They need to go to DC.
Clearly, they don't have they don't have a Boy Scout manual on how to make fire. Apparently, Peter Ustinov know how to make fire.
Yeah, even Peter wasn't sure.
He makes the line, which I laughed. He said, he's like, this is kind of making a joke. That's worth its weight in gold if you're cold. And I'm like, well, fire doesn't weigh anything.
You know what my favorite line was? They're outside and she's sitting there and some little critter, salamander or something,
little lizard goes up.
And she's like, I hate outside. And I was like, me and you both, girl. I hate it too. I hate the insects.
Birds of the world unite.
I want to be in the dome city.
I like the thing that this used to be called a road. You needed bits of metal to use it.
Yeah, bits of metal, right? And it wasn't a road; it was like rocks that.
It was what was left of a road.
I imagine it got bombed.
Yeah, it was a road at one point.
Oh God! And they still chose to walk on that. Like going off the road and walking the side of it seems like it would have been smoother. But...
Yeah, it would probably looked like more like a dry riverbed, but
like I said, I just if somebody said, well, "What's it about?" Again, is it dystopian? Is it utopian? Is it control bad. What is that?
Again,
I don't
it's
know.
something that
It's kind
Star
of a
Trek
trope
had
now.
done
It's
several
kind
times.
of the old keep the population in check thing is a trope in
To
sci-fi.
me, it's the apple from Star Trek, where you had
I
this
think it's a taste of
population that,
Armageddon.
in that case, is I think it's more the apple because they would do the same thing. They had population controls, so it wouldn't let
How would they
anybody.
get
The only
healed up? How
time
would
they
they
would
get
ever
healed up?
replace somebody is if somebody died.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they lived forever. In this case, and
But
they
what-
were there to serve the computer and live, and the computer gave them everything they needed to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the apple.
I look at it and go, hey, you had a really good life. It was easy and stuff like that, and
You enjoyed yourself for 30 years, and that's it.
you blew it all up.
You blowed up.
Blew it all up. It was this story in the Dome. It was Lord of the Flies in the Cathedral, and it was something altogether different out in Washington D.C. Like it's a bunch of things, bunch of tropes all mashed together.
So, but it worked.
But it worked. It's a good movie. I've seen it so many times. It's one of the
A
ones
lot
that
of
I'll
times I
stop and
still
watch.
I hadn't seen it in a while, so I felt I needed to watch it again.
Same with me. Same with me.
So, anyway, so it is 8:00.
All right.
We are going to do next week is October, so we're going to do our Halloween month.
It's Halloween spooky month, guys.
So we're going to kick it off with Hellboy. So we're going to do Hellboy, and then
Give us some ideas. What do you want to see for Halloween?
Yeah, so give us some ideas. We have a couple ideas. And of course, we will be doing the crossover with Ross and Roy at some point.
Well, and we already have our costumes picked out.
So
Phil is off this week, but he will be filling in tomorrow night in the 8:00 hour for that show. And Roy has two really good ones coming up. Roy is on Friday doing another look at Space 1999. He's going to do pick your top 5 favorite Space 1999 episodes, and it's kicking off his 3.5 year anniversary, which we don't celebrate half years.
Yeah, we don't celebrate the 1 years.
We barely celebrate the 1 year. On Sunday, he's kicking off his Halloween month, and he's starting with Burnt Offerings, which is one of the old classic sci-fis from back in the day. So that's what Roy and Phil have going on.
All right. So that's all we have. We'll be back next week with more. I think the last Ahsoka review, because that's only 8 episodes, I believe. More Lower Decks, Hellboy, and that's it. It'll be Halloween month, so
it's Halloween.
Get your jack-o'-lanterns out.
Spooky you want us to do, not Hocus Pocus, please.
No, we're not doing Hocus Pocus. So we have some suggestions there already. Phil said Dark City.
Oh, there's some really creepy ones like Signs or something. And Rizzo thinks we already did Signs, but
we kind of did it on one of the other shows. I know we did because I watched it.
You want to do like The Village? Another M. Night Shyamalan. You want to have an M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong Night? That he's a good Halloween day.
You've been pitching that one. I have to watch. I think I've only seen one Shyamalan Ding Dong.
Watch some more M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong.
We could do The Sixth Sense. That might be a good one.
The Sixth Sense. That's not really Halloweeny. I don't know if it's truly Halloweeny. Oh,
I see dead people.
It's dead people.
I see dead people.
I see dead people. Come on.
If we're gonna do it, let's just have an M. Night.
And Haley Joel Osment was cute. All right, we'll figure it out as we always do. But next week is definitely Hellboy. So, all right, guys. Bruce, thanks for joining us.
Yes,
always a pleasure.
We'll see you next time, guys. Live long and prosper. Good night, folks.